Hey, 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 happy day 523. I have to look. 523 of What's She Up To Now. Drinking my weird Primal Greens brown colored drink. It's good for me. It's good for my heart. I'll drink it. I drink it every day. Most every day. I'm not going to say every day, but every day I try to drink it. I make sure I drink at least a red or a green drink every day because it's good for me. It's good for my heart. And actually, they don't taste that bad, but they look terrible. They're usually this brownish green color that isn't awesome. However, it makes me feel good. So day 523, I wrote tip because I was sharing the expression of the metaphor tip of the iceberg in my Supersize Your Business and just my Facebook Live today, and talking about what that metaphor means and what it means to me. It's meant a lot to me. I don't think you can go on social media nowadays and not have seen a graphic representation of that and not know the meaning of the tip of the iceberg. 10% of what is knowable and what we actually see and experience is all that we see of a challenge or an obstacle. But the real challenge or the real obstacle or real opportunity is 90% unseeable and unknowable because we can't see it, and we can't see we can only see what we look for, but we don't even know to look for the other 90% of a situation or a problem or an obstacle or an opportunity, right? We don't even know what we're looking for. So if we don't know what we're looking for, we won't see it until we start to see pieces of it a little bit at a time. So whenever we're going for a big goal or a big thing like starting our own business or going from the offline to the online world, we can't possibly know, even if we've got a lot of experience with something similar, how it's going to play out or how it's going to play out for us. Like an iceberg floating in the ocean after it's broken off from a glacier, we only see the little tip that's floating. Think of yourself floating in a pool. When you're floating in a pool, your head's showing, right? But the rest of you, 90% of you, is underwater. Same thing with an iceberg or anything else floating in the water for the most part. A little bitty tip of it will float on the top, and all of the bigger mass part of it is underneath. This works for opportunities, it works for problems, it works for anything that we want in our life. I was thinking about different examples of how this has played out in my life where I thought I could plan something out, know about it, and it's just not something that we can know or plan every aspect of. It used to be a kind of a procrastinator, and I would put off projects because I would think I had to have it all figured out before I could start that project. And the truth is, until we actually start the project or start the thing we're moving toward, think of a relationship. Until you ask someone out or talk to them, you don't know if you're going to have a relationship with them or not. Until we take that first step toward a big goal or a project, we don't know what all we have to do in order to achieve it. I used to plan out and try to organize, how am I going to get this goal, this thing I want? And I think of in high school, I wanted this massive stereo system because I loved music back then. And when I went to college, I wanted to be able to take this cool stereo system with me. We had these big cabinets that we put each of the components in, and then the bigger the speakers, the better. And I planned out this strategy of what I was going to do and how many hours I was going to have to work and what I was going to have to do in order to get enough money to buy this stereo because I wanted this stereo. And of course, about 2 or 3 days into my plan of how I was going to get this stereo, something happened and either the job changed or we weren't going to have any overtime, but I was no longer going to be able to follow my plan to get this stereo the way I had originally planned. Well, did I give up and not go for the stereo? Of course not. I found other ways to make money to get that stereo and got a big, kick-ass, totally amazing stereo. And I had it for, oh my God, I probably had it for 10 years longer than I should have before I got rid of it because technology has changed so much since the 70s, right? And that's how everything else is. That's how every project, every endeavor of meaning to us is going to be. And we just have to accept that. It's like accepting that change is inevitable, right? Everything around us is always going to change. So we can fight against it. And human nature is to push against and resist change, which doesn't make any sense because it's inevitable. It's like pushing against death and taxes. It's inevitable. You're going to die someday, no matter what. And you're probably going to pay taxes along the way, right? So it's futile to push against these things that we have no impact on or So why would we push against change? Change is something, I love change now. I love to embrace change, knowing that, and that's a lie too, because I like to create routines so that ever-changing things are less impacting on me. But humans, we need to embrace change. We need to get excited about it and excited about the possibilities, because it's going to keep happening to us. Taking action without knowing every step of the way, we got to do it. We have to take that step in order to know what the next step is going to be. Sometimes we might know the first 1 or 2 steps of a project or a process or a thing that we want to do. But for the most part, that's all we're going to know, because that's the only part that we can see and imagine. Even, and I do this for people, I lay out step-by-step detailed action plans to follow to get a result that they want. I do challenges. I've done dozens and dozens. I'm going to have to count them up now, because I keep wondering now every time I say I do challenges, how many challenges I've done that I've led people through. And even though it's planned out day by day, step by step, it still requires that you, the person doing the challenge, actually takes the step, that first step. And how you take that first step and apply that first step and do that action is going to be similar in some ways, but different than everybody else, because we're all unique and different. So how I actually do a challenge and participate in it is going to be different than how Joe or Sally or Sam or Tim do that same exact step. Even though we all have the same plan, even though we have the same blueprint, the same map, the same daily what we're going to do, we're each going to experience it differently, and it's going to open up the unknowable, the unseeable for each of us along the way, differently than anyone else. But that's why we have to step out in faith and trust in ourselves that we will figure it out as soon as you take that first step. And that's the hardest part, by the way. The starting is always the hardest part. That first step is always the hardest one. Think about when you learn to walk as a baby. How many times did you fall on your face or run into things or knock your noggin or skin your knees learning to walk? And you probably don't remember. I don't remember learning to walk, but I know I fell down a lot. It's like riding a bike. I was probably 100 times I wiped out and skinned my knees and was bloody and crying until I finally learned to ride a bike. But it's taking that first chance, that first try, and then once you get a little bit of success, it's building on that. The whole process is the 90% that we can't see and we can't know, and we can't imagine how it's going to feel to us along the way. But it's the stepping out in faith in ourselves and trusting ourselves that we will figure it out, that we do have the ability and the know-how and the capacity to figure it out. You know, we do it in relationships. We have to do it in everything, because most of what we want and see in life is unknowable. We don't have our whole life. You know, some people plan out and map out their life, but does it really ever work out according to plan? No. We think when we build a business or start something new, a relationship or whatever, that it's going to go from A to B and be amazing every step of the way. And you know what? It's just not. It's like the picture of the zigzaggy line. That's what our lives are like. They're good and bad. They're experiences. That's what our anything that we're going after is going to be like. And as long as we know that and recognize that and are okay with that and just keep taking the next step toward it, we'll get there. We'll probably get there faster than we believe possible. You know, we have all these unrealistic expectations about what we can achieve in a really short period of time. Like, oh, I can do this in a year. Well, we tend to overestimate what we can do in a year, but we tend to underestimate what we can do in 5 or 10 years if we just make consistent effort toward what it is that we want. So thinking about that today, thinking about the tip of the iceberg, thinking about what I'm working on today, working on the 90-day challenge. Today is day 63. Again, I have to look. Day 63 of the 90-day influencer live video challenge. So every day for 90 days, we're going live and doing whatever the challenge is for the day. And I'm following a specific format in the challenge. You can do random things. You can do all different things. But for this particular challenge, I'm mapping out and teaching people different strategies and ways to create content along the way that they can do once and then they can do it again and again and again. And if you have 90 days of content and you can just then recreate that 90 days with a slightly different twist, that makes it pretty easy to produce content. Now, I'm not saying everybody needs to produce content every day. Frankly, there's a lot of content and a lot of even my own content that I think, why am I doing this every day? But I do it every day for personal reasons, and I'll share those someday, but not today. Because do I have to do it every day? Absolutely not. Is it of value every day? It's of value to me, maybe not to everybody else, but it's important to me to have consistency and routines in my life because of other things that are going on in my life. So today is the offer part of the Sideways presentation, phase 3, which is all about internal struggles, internal, I call them robes, reasons, excuses. I'm going to do them out of order. Reasons, excuses, beliefs and our thinking and our mindset, and then objections or obstacles that we think we see that make something not possible for us. And of course it is. If somebody else has done something that you want to do, that means it is absolutely positively possible for you to do it too. And I remind myself of that a lot, because I'll look at something that I want to do and I'll be like, well, I can't do that. We always automatically think, well, I can't do that. I don't deserve to do that. I'm not good enough. And I don't know where that programming comes from. I think it comes from our youth and our childhood and little mistakes and failures and messages people tell us along the way. But it seems like almost all of us have, at some deep-rooted level, those beliefs and feelings. And I don't know where it comes from, but we all seem to resort to those automatically when we're presented with something new or something different or something that we've not experienced before. And so we have to figure out how to overcome them in ourselves, and then also help other people to overcome those automatic beliefs so that they know that it is possible for them. If anybody else has ever done it, you can do it too. If it exists, even if it doesn't exist, and if you think about it, if you come up with an idea and no one on the planet has ever done it before in any way, shape, or form, you can absolutely positively pull it off, because you wouldn't think of the idea if it weren't possible for you to orchestrate and make that happen. That is a universal law. I love universal laws because we can argue with them. We don't have to believe in them, but they're going to affect us anyway. They're going to work on us anyway, whether we believe them or not. Think about gravity. If you jump out of a building, is gravity, and you don't believe, I don't believe in gravity, doesn't matter. If you jump off the top of a building, is it going to affect you whether you believe it or not? Yes, and that is just a natural law. Universal laws are a whole step beyond that. And it doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what you believe. It doesn't matter if you even know about them or not. They act upon all human beings the same way. It's inherently the same, and I guess we'd call fair, because everybody is acted upon the same way by universal laws, whether we believe them or not. So you might as well use them in your favor, right? That's a topic for another day. So 90-day challenge. Adorable little granddaughter will be here soon. It's looking like rain. I have a ton of business and personal errands and things and loose ends that have to get tied up and done in the next couple of days. So continuing to work on them. And it's details. It's like, do you need the details of documenting my journey? Probably not. Do you need to know that I have to pay bills and set up things and meet with attorneys and talk to accountants? Maybe, maybe not, but we'll get to those. If you want to know about those things, ask, and I'll be glad to share those. But for the most part, it's like watching a television show. They don't show you every time somebody goes to the bathroom, right, or eats a meal, because it's information that's not pertinent to the topic or the subject at hand. And this topic is all about transitioning from offline to online business. And so maybe some of the topics I've been covering lately, the things I'm thinking about, mindset and stuff, maybe they're not germane in your opinion, but then just don't listen. Don't watch me. All right. I'll, of course, be with you tomorrow. Go out, make it a fantastic day. Take that next step in faith. Know that when you move, when you take action towards something that you want, it might not be the perfect next step. It doesn't have to be. It just has to be action toward what it is that you want. And then things will show up. It's like magic almost. It's like I take a step toward what I want, and all of a sudden, all sorts of opportunities and possibilities show up for me to show me what I really should be doing next. Because let's be honest, we don't always take the next right step, right? I've gone down a lot of wrong roads in my life and in my career. It's all part of my overall journey. But I've been in businesses that I'll be in for a year, and I just shake my head and I'm like, why the hell am I doing this? I hate this business. And so then we just self-correct and we adjust and we do something different. That's how our whole life is. Let it unfold and enjoy the journey. Enjoy the process. That's what it's all about. All right, catch you tomorrow. Bye. Have a great day.